Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours from Infinix. This week, we've got Derek Taylor, who is our subject matter expert in the dental space, and we're going to dive into some challenges with eligibility and benefits verification in the dental space. So, Derek, to start us off, can you provide just an overview of what we're seeing right now is kind of the most common eligibility and benefits process that most practices were and are using in 2021?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, unfortunately, most dentists out there know that this process is pretty cumbersome and takes a lot of the energy and efforts of their staff. So currently, most people, they have scheduling software that allows patients to create appointments, or the patients call in and set their appointments. At the time of setting their appointments, you typically get their basic insurance information, any insurance cards they have, and enter those details into your system. Then that's really where the initiation process begins. It's usually, members of your office staff during downtime will look ahead to the calendar, see who's coming up, and do what's called the benefits verification. This process entails pulling up each patient that's going to calendar to come in, and if they are on any third-party plan or have any sort of benefits at all, anyone other than a cash payer, you need to go in and make sure that you have all of the necessary benefits information. Most practices have a checklist, which will break down the basic benefit information, as well as some of the very specific information that the doctors in their offices want clarified. Some payers are very specific regarding different x-rays and how often different types of cleaning or scaling and planing can be done, and some of the more advanced treatment options as well. And so you typically have a checklist of those items that you'll need. So one by one, you pull up each of the patients, see if those benefits for their particular plan and group have been verified in the calendar year. If they have not, then that process is getting that information any way that you possibly can. So there's a couple of ways that can happen. So one is that some of the dental practice management systems have data available through clearinghouses. So there will be an additional function that they can click on a button, which will pull out of the clearinghouse the available information. While this is helpful because it is some information, most of the times the amount of data and the accuracy of the data is pretty limited. Typically, what we find is somewhere 10 to 15% of whatever benefit information you need, and a lot of practices don't pay for the extra capability to do that because of how limited the effectiveness is. So the next line of inquiry goes to the websites. And as you can imagine, this really varies a lot by payers, especially the state-run websites. You can get the basic information pretty quickly, but a lot of them, it takes, you're not able to find the very complicated information on the website, specific codes, patient history, those kind of things. You can verify eligibility for the patient, and usually at least the general benefit information off of the web page. So the third step in the benefits investigation process then comes to the dreaded phone calls. So you call in and wait on hold until your turn, and then you fill in the gaps through speaking directly to representatives of those payers. That information then needs to be loaded into your practice management software, which is done just, at that time. You'll type it up and put it in there. or some of the practices will just take the handwritten sheet of the benefit information and scan it or connect it to the patient digitally for future reference. So that process for a new patient with a new plan can take up to 45 minutes. And we've just seen as staffing shortages, have been hitting the offices, they've also been hitting the payers, and the wait time and availability of these phone calls just seems to keep getting longer and longer.
Great, thanks. You mentioned staffing shortages. Let's dive a little bit more into that and what other trends right now that you're seeing in the dental market that are making this process even more challenging.
Yeah, so I think COVID has hit, every industry in negative ways. But in dentistry, what I've seen, at least with the practices that I interact with, is that universally, as they had, gone on mandatory quarantine and shut down temporarily, and as they were authorized to reopen, that there was a certain amount of staff that just was not interested in returning, whether there were benefits that they were receiving or what, and that most dental offices now still are running at about 70% capacity on their billing office side, in their front office staff, and many of the offices have increased salary offerings, trying to draw in more candidates. So it really is something that's felt, at least in the larger cities, where we've seen that there's been a lot of workers who had been working for years in the offices that are choosing to stay home and either do other work or take advantage of the benefits they're receiving.
And as we approach 2022, what are your best tips for practices in terms of eligibility, especially as we start to approach that dreaded time for dental groups, January and February, and the hassle of re-verifying benefits for all their patients? Obviously, the staffing shortage challenge is an issue and is going to continue to be an issue. So what tips do you have for us?
Yeah, well, yes, this is just always a big burden. It's something that we all dread, knowing that each beginning of each year is when all the payers update their benefits for each of their plans. So, and that's also oftentimes when they'll add plans or split plans. So it's basically a whole new, anything that's been already verified and confirmed in the previous calendar year is pretty much useless. So this is a really tough situation with limited and stressed employees. I think most offices do what they can to get through as much as they can, as quick as they can. The concern, the main trade-off or issue is, as you're aware, is if we don't get that benefit information before we meet with the patient, it typically results in write-offs later on, that we've anticipated, benefits based on last year's plans or what that typically looks like. And then when we get the benefits or we hear back from the payers, we find out that we were wrong, and that they're either what they'll pay or, if they'll pay was incorrect. And so there's big losses. So this is a tough situation in that it hurts either way. To be able to try to get it on the front end, you're going to be really stretching your resources. But if you fail to get it, it's going to cost you with write-offs and things that you did that you're not able to get paid for. So you really want to go about it as wisely as possible. Some of the providers do try to get benefits information ahead. It's oftentimes good to look at how many of the, based on your patient demographics, how many of those plans and groups are very common, and perhaps target those particular groups and plans right at the beginning of the calendar year, just knowing that it's likely that you'll have quite a few patients in those particular groups. And those are really, oftentimes regional. You'll have a particular large company in your area that only has a couple plans that they offer. And so you'll have, multiple patients with those particular plans and groups. But second thing is definitely try to take advantage of all the technology you have available. So the websites, just make sure a lot of smaller practices have gotten in the habit of just calling, right? Instead of trying to go through the website, they just hop on the phone. But that's really an inefficient manner. If you familiarize yourself with the websites, you are able to, typically you'll be able to get at least half of the information from the website. And it's much more quick information. You can do things like, taking a screen grab or shot and attach that to the benefit information for verification. Whereas phone calls, it's really, if we get misinformation from a payer, we don't have any documentation on it. So phone calls are just really anything you can do to minimize the length of time you'll be calling. And on the websites, definitely ask if you go into particular web pages and you don't see where you can look up certain codes, reach out, to the support and ask and see if there is a way to do that. Some of the third-party websites have an application where you can put in the patient information and they will email you, fax or email, a copy of the general benefit information. And if you know that particular plan's easy to do it that way, coordinate your schedule in a pattern where you can get that, be working some other patients, and then add to it. And then on the phone call side, organize your calling. You can verify patients days and days ahead of time. So sort your patients by payers. And try when you're on these phone calls, if it's a payer that's friendly, try to verify 2 or 3 patients at the same time when possible. Those kind of efficiencies are really helpful. Additionally, with the manpower concerns, there are third-party companies that offer support on the billing side, both through some electronic and through some staffing solutions. And those kind of supports can be really helpful if you're experiencing significant staffing issues.
Great, good tips, thank you. What changes do you think we're going to see over the next year with benefits and verification?
So I'd like to say that, would hopefully see more payers investing in getting that benefit information to us electronically or into clearinghouses. But at least the trending, over the last several years has not been been going that way, that we haven't seen any significant changes from the payer side. So, I think that's a tough one. That being said, I know there's a lot of players in the market, both on the practice management software side as well as independent companies that are pursuing methodology to extract benefit information or compile it, or even facilitate the once that information is acquired, facilitate getting it into your practice management software. So I think those kind of technologies, there's a lot of investment in the marketplace right now. And those really can, while we're waiting on payers to facilitate and ease the way that the benefits are handled, this is something that the market is still accommodating for, that they're building out and trying to use technology on that side to do what they can while the payers hopefully catch up.
Right. That would be a game changer in the space if we could get that figured out.
Yeah,
from a technology perspective.
Yeah, it's really surprising in that a lot of other industries have a lot better benefit and prior authorization information relay. within medical or pharmacy or other similar HIPAA constraints. And I think dental will eventually catch up, but it's just not what would incentivize the payers to start investing in that tech. But that's really what would need to happen. It'd need to really come from the payer side.
Okay. Do you think we're going to start to see, you mentioned it a little bit, but do you think we're headed in the right direction in terms of seeing technology play a larger role? I mean, you just mentioned on the medical side, we're seeing all of this insurance verification and benefits, lots of movement in terms of technology playing a larger role there to automate more. Is that going to transition into the dental space, you think?
Yeah, yes, for sure. I'm seeing that a lot of the same kind of technology, not specifically, I mean, some on the benefit side, of course, but when we're talking, patient communication, scheduling, going through and looking at your AR and RCM solutions, there's a lot of technology in analytics and business intelligence that is in the marketplace and getting into dental. And so that really can help the dental practices be working efficiently and really know what's going on, boots on the ground. We've seen that in the IT space, dental also is significantly behind other arms of medicine, where the majority of dental offices still are using physical servers. They have not transitioned their practice management software into the cloud. And those I'm seeing the market accommodating for that as well, that most now the major practice management softwares are developing cloud solutions that are or other companies for cloud hosting within the dental space. So definitely that technology, which has proven, time and time again in these other areas, is coming over to the dental side. But it does feel, a little bit behind still.
Interesting. Well, thanks, Derek, so much. This was really helpful and insightful information in the dental space. And we look forward to seeing everyone on the next office hours.
All right. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.